Hi, and welcome to Diversity in the Community. I am so touched to have an old-time friend with me, Minister Delores Bobb. I've been knowing Delores for many, many years, and she has been an inspiration to me. I wanted her to come on tonight to tell her story, tell about her struggles and how she made it through her faith in God. So, Delores, I want to welcome you to the show tonight. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes, because I know you got a story to tell, girl. You know, we go way back.
Way back.
You got a story to tell. I want you
Yes.
to introduce yourself. First, look in that camera. Just introduce yourself and tell the audience about yourself.
Well, like she said, I'm Minister Delores Bobb. I'm a minister at St. John Full Gospel in Bloomfield. I got different parts of my story that I do have, but I think I'll be mainly dealing with the one that I've been dealing with for the last few years, but we'll go back and forth with it. Glad to be with everyone tonight.
So you were an inspiration when our kids were little. All of our kids grew up together, singing in the choir.
Yes.
And people used to come around and say, who is that little lady up there directing that choir?
Yes, a lot of people used to say to me, I remember one time this girl said to me, she said, when I looked up there and I saw you directing the choir, I said, this little short lady, and she got all those kids under control. And it's amazing, I was just talking about the choir a few weeks ago with someone, and we were saying that the choir was called the Angelic Voices of Deliverance.
Right.
And so I ended up naming the choir the Angelic Voices because one day when I was sitting down and thinking about things, I say, angelic is like angels.
Uh-huh.
And that's how they became the Angelic Voices. But when we stopped singing, the last count that we had was 82 choir members.
Oh, my Lord.
Young people that just really loved the Lord came out and sang, and it was just amazing, and they loved it and they looked forward to it. So when you find young people like that,
Yeah.
that's willing to make a commitment and come to church, you don't have no problem with getting them to do something.
And not only did you work with the children in the church, you took children into your house.
Yes.
So you were a foster parent for me. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, how I became, I wasn't a foster parent at first. I was in the neighborhood, and so one day my daughter Rhonda came to me, and so she said, "Ma, it's this little boy." She said, "He is so cute," and so she said, "A lot of times he be at home by himself, and his sister be trying to take care of him." So she said, "Can I bring him up to the house?" And so I said, "Yeah, you can bring him up to the house." She brought him up to the house. And when she brought him up to the house, I never had met his mother. And I kept saying, well, when they coming to get this little boy?
Uh-huh.
And he ended up staying with me for about a month before I ever met the mother. And so one day I just said, show me where they live at. And I went and I introduced myself to the mother. And she was just so happy that I had stepped in and started taking care of him. And so he ended up staying with me really almost about a year.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
then it was another little girl in the neighborhood, and my daughter got her. She came to the house, and she stayed with me off and on for about a little over a year.
Oh, my.
And then I had 2 kids in the house, and then there was another child that came. So what I did was I went into my pocket and I started paying daycare for them and everything. And I guess someone told somebody from the state that I had the kids. So one day I'm sitting in the house, lady came and knocked on the door, and so she was talking to me, and so she told me that she understood that I had these kids. And she was like, you can't do this. This has not been legally done. And I said, well, the parents don't have no problem with it. And so, but because I knew that the parents they wasn't in no shape. I'm not gonna say they didn't want their kids, but they wasn't in no shape to take the kids and everything. But they wanted to get the finances. So I said, you keep the finances, I keep the child. One hand wash the other. The child's gonna get loving and taken care of, and that's what I did. And so right to this day, two of them come back and forth in my house and everything. And so then they asked me, would I consider being a foster parent? And I said, yes, I'll be a foster parent. And I signed up to be a foster parent. And that's what I ended up doing. I was a foster parent. And I just stopped maybe about 2 months ago, because it was getting to be hectic. I was having some problems. And so I actually had I did 27 years of foster care.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so it was a blessing to me. It really was.
And you were still doing it while you were in the
wheelchair. Well, that's where things got complicated at and everything, because what happened, I was only doing teenagers. And they were still bringing the kids to my house. But then one thing led to another, and another thing led to another. But nobody never said anything to me that I was not fit to have a child, which I can understand that they probably looked at it and said, well, this lady has MS and she's in a wheelchair and she shouldn't be. But because of my time and energy that I had put in with them and everything, and then the last child that I had with DCF, it was just getting totally out of control. And I was at that point where I said, it's just really getting to be difficult, because it just seemed like I was fighting a losing battle. And so I just dropped my hands with it and said, this is it. Whatever y'all say, you can have it. I've done my 27 years with y'all. I was going to say, you've done, oh my God. I've done my 27 years. I had one child, I don't know if you, Jasmine just called me the other day. She was coming to church with me all the time. I don't know if you remember Jasmine. I remember Jasmine. And Jasmine has a 2-year-old boy now, and she insisted to him when he first came to the house. She said, he just was looking at me and she said, that's Grandma. And that's what he calls me and everything, you know. And I just hung in there. And I just feel like I gave it all that I had. And if I had to do it, but I wouldn't do it that way there. If somebody had a child and they needed to try to get on their feet, I would tell them they could leave them there for a minute. Because even from the time that I was diagnosed with MS, like I had to tell people, some people said to me, oh, do you get these girls because you need them to help you? And I say, help me? I'm helping. I say, are you kidding? I do all the cooking in the house. I do, and I'm still cooking and everything, but I enjoy it. One thing about it is that I don't care what you're going through. You have to be determined to keep motivated. And if you lose your motivation, because I never forget, this guy at the church told me, Pitted boy, he's going to school for neurology. He said to me, remember these words, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And so he told me, you just got to keep trying and trying and trying. So, no, these kids didn't do nothing really for me. I did it for them. And then there was a couple of girls that came to my house, and they looked at me, and people laughed when I explained. They looked at me when they came in the house, and the worker brought them to my house, and they looked at me, and I summed them up. I knew what they thought. So as soon as the worker left, they tried to get all smile. I said, let me tell you something. Don't get this wheelchair twisted. Don't get this wheelchair twisted. Because they thought that they had came into this old lady's house and they could, but they learned I wasn't nobody to play with.
Well, Sister D, I'm going to tell you, every time I look out there in the audience and I see you, you were saying that I inspired you, but you inspired me so much because I remember when you were running around, running up and down the aisle and all that kind of stuff, and to keep, and I know it had to be difficult to push yourself, to keep coming and whatever. And it just, I said, some people don't come and they got all of their energy, got everything, can get around and all that, but I see you sitting out there. And I just want to know personally, I know it's a tough thing to talk about, but how did they tell you, or how did they know that you had MS, and when did you notice that there was something going on? And
Well, what actually happened was, one day I was at work and I got up from my cubicle and I had started saying, I'm gonna walk up and down the stairs a little bit more. I'm not gonna take the elevator. And I went to go walk downstairs and there was only 2 steps left, and I fell. But I thought that I was clumsy, something had happened like that. So I bounced right on up, went back to my office, sat down, and then I was in the house. I was in my kitchen on a Sunday. I bent down to take a pot, and I fell forward. And I was like, where's all these falls coming from? So I went to the doctor, and when I first went to the doctor, they treated me for a bad case of arthritis. And that was it. They kept saying, well, just take something over the counter. And I kept doing that. And then little by little, I still kept falling. I had went through something. And when I went through it, what had happened was, for the next month or so, I just wasn't myself. I knew I wasn't, but I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And then I went to my doctor and I told him something just is not right. And they gave me an MRI. And then when I went back to the office to get the results from the MRI, he said to me, he said, oh, I know what it is. And I was like, oh, you do? And he says, yes. He says, it's multiple sclerosis. And I said, I've never heard of it. And he said, it's called MS. Most of the time you'll hear people say MS. And then he started going on telling me that it's an attack to the nervous system. And he gave me a little medicine to kind of help me, but I still kept going on my way. And I was like, I cannot see myself like this, because you know me as active as as I was.
Yes.
So one time I had to go to the pastor's office for something, and I laugh about it all the time. So I'm coming out of his office and I'm walking down the hallway, and all of a sudden I fell. And I was like, oh, it's just going to keep happening and happening and happening. And so this guy, Brother Darren, he came and scooped me up. And I went back to the pastor and I told him, I said, I'm going through something, I don't know what it is. And so he said, no, what you need to do, you need to get you a cane. And I was looking at him, I ain't getting no cane. But then that was one of the, I don't know about anybody else that have been through something traumatic, because what I can say from my experience, and I have taken my experience and talked to other people, because one of the first things that you have to go through, and you have to deal with it, and that's pride. Because you can't see yourself going from where you were to this right here. Especially when you're a very independent person, and I've always been a very independent person. And so when I first got diagnosed with MS, one thing that had really hurt me about it was that at work I had a supervisor, and she was just annoying. And I couldn't remember nothing. I could come in and turn my computer on, and I'd be looking to do this, and I would get so frustrated, I would just sit there and cry. And I couldn't even remember how to turn the computer on, how to get to this, and I was like, what is going on? And nobody never told me that one of the symptoms of MS is your memory.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that either.
Your memory. And so that's what actually happened. My memory was going everywhere.
Yeah.
And so every time I turned around, my supervisor was calling me in the office, and she used to really get on my nerves. Come here, girly. Come here, girly. And I would look at her and say, oh, girly, I'm a grown woman. You're not going to keep talking to me like that. But I kept getting written up.
Wow.
I kept getting written up, and what happened was my steps started getting slower and slower. I had to be to work at 8 o'clock. And sometime when I left the house, I don't care how early I left, I was walking in that door at work 5 after 8 because I couldn't run no more. And I was scared to try to walk too fast or run because I thought I would fall. And so what actually happened was I got written up so much.
And they didn't know that you had MS?
Because I didn't know at the time.
Okay.
I thought I was just dealing with a bad case of arthritis, but they didn't know. When I found out about the MS, I had lost my job. I lost my job.
Wow.
Because I had bad performance. See, some people won't talk about it, but maybe if somebody else had told me about it and everything like that. But when I got written up, I never forget when I got called in the office and they told me that they were letting me go. That was the longest walk that I ever took because I didn't understand. I knew something was going on, but to lose my job over something like this, see, some people won't tell the truth, but they try to act like everything was fine. A lot of people say to me, oh, you took early retirement. No, I did not take early retirement. I lost my job.
Wow.
When I got home that day, I just sat there in the kitchen and I was like, what am I going to do? What I did was I went to unemployment. When I went to unemployment and I spoke to this lady, she was very nasty. And it just seemed like I wasn't getting nowhere. It seemed like I just kept running into brick walls. And I never forget how nasty that lady was. When I left out and I went to my car, I sat there in my car on Main Street at the welfare office crying because I didn't know how I was going to make it from day to day. And so I went home. They told me they would let me know if I was eligible for food stamps. I could not believe it. I got a paper in the mail, and they told me I was eligible for $10 worth of food stamps.
Wow.
And I said, $10? I took the $10. They said I was over the amount because I was getting $100 and something in unemployment because of me losing my job.
Right, right.
But me didn't know no better. Sometimes it come back to haunt me, but I'm all right with it now. Because a lot of people said, you should have fought them. But
you didn't know.
I did not know. And then the main thing was, I'm dealing with a health issue. But one thing that blessed me, I had a landlord. And he was so nice to me. When I came home from work that day, and he was like, Delores, you don't seem like your cheerful self. It hurt me so much to tell anybody that I had lost my job.
Oh, I can't imagine.
And I told him like 2 or 3 days later that I had lost my job. When it came time for rent the next month, I just told him, I said, it might be a little struggle and everything. So my daughter, my vet, said to me, Ma, I'm going to help you where I can. Because she got her own place, her and her son, and she would try to give me a little bit here and a little bit here. But what happened was, one day, maybe like about 2 or 3 months later, it hit rock bottom. I ain't have no money coming in. The unemployment was cut off. I had the $10 in food stamps and everything. And I went and I told my landlord, and I said to him, I said, I just have to be truthful with you. I don't know how I'm going to pay the rent. He said, do what you can do.
Wow.
And I said, really? He said, do what you can do.
God bless him.
And then I lived in that man's house for a year. 1 whole year without paying a dime for rent. And he said, because you've been a very good tenant. And then one day I got up in the morning, I looked outside, and there was a for sale sign right in the middle of the yard. I said, oh my God, it can't get no worse than this. And he came and he knocked on my door with this young guy. And he told me, he said, I'm selling the house, but he's buying. He said, and I told him that you've been a very good tenant and that I want to work something out with him that he will take you on as a tenant. And do you know that man took me on?
Look at God.
So that was nothing but favor from God. You know,
oh my God. Look
nothing
at God.
but favor from God.
Oh my
and then
God.
it just seemed like things just started happening left and right into my favor.
This the house you in now?
No,
Oh,
what
that's not the house.
happened was
Okay.
I was on the second floor at that time, but the MS had got so bad I couldn't even go up and down the stairs. I had went from a cane to a walker to the wheelchair. And I would come home and I would put my wheelchair right there at the bottom of the step and I would take my butt and go step till I got to the second floor. And I did that for a while, and then one day my vet said, I found you a place. And I said, oh, you did? And I stayed there until Charmaine said to me one day, she said, I was riding down the street and I saw a for sale sign. She said, but maybe you could talk to the people. And I called and I said to the man, I said, you got a for sale sign? I say, I'm not looking to buy. I want to rent right now. And he said, you can come and look at the place. And I said, okay. When I went there, I could not believe it. One family house, big backyard, patio and everything. So the thing that was so funny that I tell people, when I went, Jasmine was still with me. So Jasmine and Ron, my vet, took me to the place. And so I kept talking to the man. So I was like, if you work something out for me, I'll make sure that everything is taken care of. And the man was just still walking around, and I was like looking at him. Man, my God, he is so rude. He ain't paying me no mind. And so I'm looking at him, because you know how sometimes some things, I say, this Caucasian man, he probably don't even want to rent it to me. He said, you didn't hear me? And I said, no. He said, I said it's yours.
Oh my God, thank you.
And I said, really? That was it. And I've been there for about 6 years now.
And it's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
I was over there a couple times.
Yeah.
Cook out.
Yeah. And Charmaine said, girl, when I saw it, I said, it's yours. And it just worked out, you know. But one thing that I will say, Teresa, that a lot of people may not understand and know, when I first got diagnosed with MS, and people found out that I had MS and they started seeing me and so I couldn't walk and everything, it was a time where it just seemed like I couldn't get no rest. Every time you turned around, somebody was coming over to do something for me. People was coming over bringing me food. Oh, I want to take you out to eat. Oh, do you need me to come and do this for you? And this went on, I say about 6 months. And then all of a sudden, one day it dawned on me, nobody's here.
Oh my God.
Traffic stopped. Phone calls stopped. And that's one thing that people have got to learn, whatever crisis you're going through. I have a expression that I say to people, everybody can't do the long haul. And don't take it personal. They really don't mean no harm. But they just can't hang in here because one thing I had to realize, and I had to realize it even with my kids, everybody got their own life. And so you can't expect for everybody to just stop living to come and take care of you. Some people will feel like, oh, you got kids. I have 3 kids, and all of them have different personality. And all of them can do something more different. So I never forget one day my daughter Rhonda said to me, Mom, I'm not my vet. And I said, you ain't my vet. I know you ain't my vet. But what she was trying to say is, my vet might can do this and do that, but that's just not me. And so I don't know how many people would have to go through, like even I went through a traumatic time because I couldn't get any help from the state as far as anybody coming into my house to help me. I was actually getting up in the morning, trying to wash myself up, trying to put my clothes on and everything like that. I never forget, one day, it's funny, because my granddaughter Zaire, Marvette, and Rhonda came. Marvette stopped pushing me in the bathroom, and she said, "Come on, Rhonda." And Rhonda was like, "What?" And she said, "You better get in here. We got to get Mommy a shower." And so she said, "Oh, I can't do that." And they got into a big argument because my vet said, "What you mean you can't do that? That's your mother." And the Rhonda was standing there. She was standing there, ooh, you know. But, and then my son, I noticed he backed up a lot because boys are different.
Yeah.
They really can't deal with seeing their mother. So everybody have to learn to deal with your little village that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And you have to accept people for who they are. I know there's some people that's probably listening to this right now saying, what she talk about? Her daughter couldn't do this. Everybody can't do
You're
that
right.
like that.
You're so right.
Everybody can't do it. For her to come in the house and take my clothes off and start washing me, and she just couldn't do it. But at first I started getting the attitude. I said, "Girl, what you talking about? You can't do me. I'm your mother. I carried you." It's a total difference. And so a lot of times people like to be opinionated and say, "Oh, that's a shame. She got 3 kids and they all ain't." No, it's different. Each child is different, so you can't judge. And it's not. And I really don't think that they don't do because they don't want. Everybody's not cut out for that.
Right.
And you have to accept people for who they are. And
Right.
that's that. A lot of people who I thought, and they still is my friend, I thought you would be there with me through thick and thin.
Didn't happen.
It didn't happen. It did not happen. It just, I had to learn and look at them and say, that's not them. And you have to take it like that and say, that's not them. They just can't do it. And so you have to learn, you know, to just say, well, this is where we're at. And you go head on with life, and you still take people as your friend and whatnot. And just keep on moving, that's all.
But what gave you I know it's the Lord, of course, what gave you the strength to just push through all? And I mean, sometimes people don't know how strong they can be until...
I didn't find out. I thought I was a go-getter all the time. But what happened was, don't forget, I don't have no help coming in the house. I didn't have nothing going. So one day, I'm on the walker, and it was one of them walkers that you push. And I stumbled and I fell. And I tried my best to get up. I couldn't get up at all. And I sat right there on the floor and I cried. Because I never thought that I would see myself in this position to have to depend on people. And so I called my vet. And it's like over half an hour she had to get to my house. And so I just said, I've tried. So she said, Mom, what you need to do, you need to see if they'll give you some help. I was like, I don't want to be going through all of that and everything. I'm going to get up. I'm going to get up one day. And she said, Mom, you got to drop the pride and you got to get up and do this and do that. So one day, my vet came to my house. And I was like, is this girl crazy to be talking to me like that? I fell. I said, my vet, help me get up. She said, no, you get up yourself. And I said, no, my vet, I'm not playing. This is for real. She said, no, get up. You don't want to see if you can get some extra help. You don't want nobody to come. She said, no, get up. And then she just kept walking past me. I said, my vet, stop playing. And then she finally came and helped me out. And so that's when I started realizing this is it. And some people said to me in church, for those that know about church and God, where's your faith? My faith was there. It just didn't kick in at that time. And I went through a period where I stayed literally, and I'm going to tell you one thing that hurt me. I stayed in my house for about a year. I ain't come to church. I ain't do nothing. Because, first of all, I had too much of pride to try to come in church and trying to get out of this chair to get in the regular chair at the church. And I got tired of people asking me, what's the problem, and this and that. And it was just so overwhelming. And so I just got to the point where I said, I'll start watching TV. I'll get some kind of church and everything. I didn't go to church for a whole year. But I was wondering, did anybody miss me? Because the phone wasn't blowing up. But it's a scripture in the Bible that said David had to encourage himself. And I started talking to myself.
Encourage yourself.
And I said, Dolores, you got to get up from here. A whole year and I went by and everything. And then I finally talked myself into it. I said, I'm going to church. And then where I sit at in church, because it's more comfortable, I said, oh my God, it's like I'm on display right in the front of the church. And then, I felt like I was on display. But nobody really knew except for the people close to me, because I was sitting behind the mothers and some people.
Yeah.
Every time I came to church, I'm going to tell you what happened. And I had to talk to myself. At the time, the choir was still singing. And because I was so used to directing the angelics, and all those memories came back, I just would sit there and cry. Because nobody could understand that this is what that was my life.
Yes.
That was my life right there.
Yes.
And then in between directing, I did prison ministry. I would go down to Niantic and I preached and everything. And then one day the warden said, I need to speak to you. And she was like, this is a health risk, because if something break out in here, it's going to be our responsibility if you get hurt. And so they said, we can't have you come back. And that was another blow. I done lost directing the choir. I done lost directing with the youth department. I done lost preaching. I can't go to no. I'm like, what do I do now? And then I ended up getting the women's department, and I started saying, I got to do something. And I have a conference line every Monday night, and it's like 30 to 40 people on there right now. But you always got to find something to fill in that gap, because.
But you know, every time you get up to preach or give a word, you inspire so many people.
And that's what people say, and I be trying to figure it out. I remember one day, the administrator from the church, she contacted me, and so she said, the pastor said he want to have 3 people speak. And she named the other 2 people, and she said, and he wants you. I said, oh, no. Because, see, people don't know. I just look at it and say, everybody going to be looking at me and everything like that. And so I said, okay, let me try it. So that morning when I got to church, they had an area set up where I was going to be from my wheelchair preaching. But the other 2 women, I was like, I want to preach the way, but it's just not like that. So you just got to keep doing, But one thing that I experience a lot of, I'm beginning to get over it. I'm not completely over it. I feel like I'm forgotten about a lot. Because when it comes time to say, okay, like say for instance, I talked about the choir, I talked about in Niantic and everything like that to go preach. When you're trying to, if you sat up here right now and said, oh, I think I want to put a little choir together and have them come on this show. when you start naming Susie, Betty, and everybody else, you think that they would be a good person to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sitting there, I don't say nothing, but I'm sitting there saying, what about me? I'm not in the running because I'm in a wheelchair. And so when you forget about me, you don't realize that hurts my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Even like sometimes, I know, and people try to say, oh, Dolores, yes, it is like that. A lot of times it's different things, functions that people have. And I know if I was walking, you would invite me, but you didn't invite me. But now I try to turn it around and say, y'all watch me.
There you go.
Y'all watch
There you
me.
go.
I'm going to
There
get
you go.
up.
There
I'm going
you
to get
go.
up. You know, I said to my grandson, you'll see it probably on Facebook. I said, he said, Grandpa, where you going? I said, I'm going to be on TV. He said, he looked at me, he said, you going where? I said, I'm going to be on TV. He said, Grandma, that's why you're dressed up like that? I said, yeah, I'm going to be on TV. He said, Grandma, stop playing. I said, yeah. I said, get your phone. I said, take some pictures. I said, I'm put on Facebook. I'm about to go. He said, Grandma, you playing? I said, no. So he took a few pictures. He put them on Facebook so that my vet pulled up. He said, here come my mother. So she came walking down. So she said, where you going? The church? I said, oh, I'm going to be on TV. She said, bye. Where is you going? I said, I'm going to be on TV. Rhonda was right behind. Rhonda said, Mom, where you going? I said, I'm going to be on TV. So I do little things like that to laugh and joke.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know, I remember one time I went to Friendly's by myself on the dollar ride. And when they pushed me in, the lady said, somebody coming? I said, no, I'm by myself. She looked at me, you by yourself? So she finally went, got the menu and brought it. My vet called me on the phone, and I had met this couple. We was talking. They was on. I said, Mom, where you at? I say, I'm at Friendly's. She said, well, who? I said, I don't know. I met these people. She said, you met her? I said, girl, I'm tired of sitting in this house. And so now I go out by myself. I done been on, but it was 2007 I was diagnosed with it. I have been on 4 cruises.
There you go. There you go.
I just get out and enjoy life, and that's it.
That's what I admire about you. Even me sitting here, I mean, we talk about such a serious subject,
Right.
but you make me
You
laugh.
had to la- I
You
mean,
can make, and that was, I mean, you know, you were always a comedian.
And you have to laugh about it.
You do, because otherwise you'll go so, we call it the black hole. You'll get so into that black hole that you
Right.
can't come
You
out of it.
can't come out.
You
And
know.
that's where I was at when I didn't come out for a year. But then I finally said, I got to get up and, you know, even like my aide, I have an aide that comes in on Sunday morning and get me ready for church. And she is just tickled pink. I say, honey, could you get my earrings over there? And then she said, oh, yeah, get my necklace. And she said, one thing I like about you, Miss Bobb, she said, you fix yourself up. Because, first of all, I already got this going against me. So just because you're sick, you ain't got to be walking around with no makeup on and looking all old.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
no, so I just enjoy myself like that.
And you have to look at not what you can't do, but what you can do.
What you can do.
And you went down, what did you go down to, your reunion or something?
It was a girl in our class. She was having something to bring classmates together, and she asked me to preach. And different people was like, "You go, yeah." And I went on that plane, and I went down there and preached. I brought my daughter's father with me and everything. He was just amazed. He was just like looking at me like, and that was it.
Yeah, I just heard every time you go somewhere, I hear about how you just wow the audience with you know, with your testimony, with your preaching. So I don't know. Sometimes God brings us through things,
Right.
but the one thing you was saying, I can't do this. I can't go to the go to the
And I
prison.
tried. Let me tell you,
but,
my
man,
grandson laughed at me a few weeks ago, and I said to him, I say, "Oh, since we're over this way here, I want to run in this store and get a couple of things." So when we went in the store, he thought it was just, it really was supposed to be a couple of things. And so I said, you don't need to get no wagon. So I said, get that. When he would get it, I'd stick it over here on the side, I'd stick it over here on the side. So we got home. He laughed. He said, Grandma, it's still one thing. Hey, Grandma, I said, honey, Grandma didn't steal that. I just really forget. Because sometimes I'd have been to the store by myself. I have so much of stuff on the side. But I be trying to ask people, and it's amazing. Sometimes I'll just stand right there in the aisle and I can ask about 3 or 4, excuse me, they just keep right on walking, excuse me, and then finally I said, excuse me, could you reach that for me? And they give it to me and I stick it together and I go, keep going. Because you gotta do what you gotta do. Life is not over. I don't know how. I got enough faith, I believe, because I tell everybody, you thought that I was in church praising God before you wouldn't even want to be around me when I get up.
Yes. Yeah.
People keep saying to me, why don't you give up the place and go into, I don't want to go into a scene. I'm not there mentally in my mind. I do everything in my house myself. If people say, well, I think that's your opinion, because I just think that would take away from me right now. I'm still, I'm still active. I know they all, when I get back, because my grandson had to go to basketball practice and everything, and they gonna be, what happened? What's it? I'm say, you gotta watch it.
Oh my God.
But it's really interesting. It really is. You just got to believe. Like I said, one of the main things that you have to prepare, and you can't really prepare yourself for, you got to remember that there's going to be some people that's not going to be able to do this. And don't take it personal. And one thing I will say, I never thought I'd be in the predicament that I'm in, but I learned to live. My grandmother raised me from the time I was 4 years old, because my mother died when I was 4. And so I ain't never have nobody but my grandmother. My grandmother died when Tyrus was born in 2001. And so she died. My youngest brother died to an addiction from drugs. My oldest brother died, and my sister died. And so sometimes I just sit up and I just say, I don't even believe that I'm still here by myself.
Survivor.
And I know that they would all be here and have my back. But I'd be like, they pushing me. They said, you better go here, girl. And that's where I'm at.
I know when I was at church, I said, I have got to get Sister Delores on, because there's so many people that would have gone through what you had. We're just giving up. And I said, her words, because I tell you, I admire you. I admire you every time I see you in the church. I admire you. But sometimes I had these aches and pains. I had a problem with my back. Sometimes all that, like, oh, Lord, I don't feel, I still go and stuff. I said, but look, every time I look down and I see you coming in that church, and it just touches my heart. So even though you can't do some of the things you used to, you got a voice.
Yeah, right.
You got a voice. And what's that song? As I look back over my life,
and I think
things over, I can truly say that I've been blessed. I have a testimony. And you got a testimony.
That's it.
And I wanted you to come on here so you can give your testimony to those people who just like have given up and think that they can't make it. And they see you and this lady, she lost all of this. She's in a wheelchair and she's still comical.
Right.
She make anything that's serious, make you laugh. And I know in your moments, you have moments where you don't feel like making nobody laugh.
No.
But you, I just appreciate the fact that you're willing to come on and just give your testimony, give somebody a word of encouragement that they can make it no matter what.
Because I feel like this, I don't care what you're going through. Just don't let yourself fall in the dumps into depression. I remember one time we was at the MS clinic, and I was sitting there, and there was some people sitting around. And so I saw this lady sitting over there, and she was just crying and everything. So I said, she must be going through like I was going through before. She could be in the first day. So I started wheeling my chair over. So my daughter said, where you going? I said, I'm going over here for a minute. So she was like, you know that? I don't know that lady. So I went over there and said, honey, what's wrong? So she said, I just want to get up. I want to walk. So we talked, and I said, well, honey, I done been through that. I know how it feels to want to walk and everything like that. And so then after she cried and she thought, I said, do you mind if I pray with you? And so I reached over there and I got her hand and I started praying with her and everything. And so my daughter said, Ma, you going over there praying for people? You got, give somebody else some hope. Cause I don't know, I never saw the lady again, but I don't know what I did, what it meant to her. Cause it might have made her say, let me get up. If this lady could come over here and pray for me, and she wasn't in a wheelchair, she was with a cane, so she must have been in the first part of it. So I just hope that sometime if it's something that I can say and do to people that, you know,
Yes.
make them know that there's hope. You just got to hold on. That's it.
Well, I truly appreciate, because I know it was even a task to come out here tonight.
Yeah.
To get dressed, to go on the dollar ride, to come out here in the cold, to come out here tonight, to give somebody a word of encouragement.
Right.
And I know that, and I appreciate it. So I want you to look in the camera if you want to give somebody a word of encouragement, something that you want them to know, or just, you know, even say a prayer for them. And
Well, what I will say to anyone that's looking into this TV, I would say to them, no matter what you're going through, hold on. Because as long as you've got breath in your body, there is hope.
yes.
I don't care how discouraged that you get, just keep holding on, because you never know when your miracle is coming through. And there's a scripture that we deal with in church, Romans 8:28. For we know that all things work together. And you might say, mine ain't working together, but all things, the good, the bad, it all works together. So you just got to hold on and believe. And then I will go as far as to say, if it don't get no better, whatever state you're in, be content. If you don't, I have a thing where I say, if I don't never get up out of this wheelchair, I'm hoping and I'm praying that I get up. But if I don't get up out of this wheelchair, I'm going to still be happy. I'm going to still be joyful, because you're going to be depressed and you're not going to get nowhere being depressed and crying about it. So each and every day that you wake up, count it a blessing and count it a miracle that you actually woke up this morning, because this is how I look at it. If you go into the hospitals, if you go into the convalescent homes, if you go into the rehabs, if you walk up and down them aisles, you'll see somebody that's much worse than what you are. And they would love to change places with you. So I'm just saying, hold on. I'm going to say a quick word of prayer for you. Father God, we just thank you for this day. For this is the day that you have made, and we choose to rejoice and be glad in it. Father, we just thank you for whatever state we're in. We thank you right now. We praise you because you are God and you are God alone. And God, if you don't do another thing for us, you still been good to us, because you allowed us to wake up every day. So each and every day that breath is in our bodies, we choose to praise you and to thank you for what you've done. And then we're going to praise you in advance for what you're going to do. So whatever you're going through, I say to you this day, be encouraged. There is hope. God bless you.
Well, there you go. That's my sister. I thank you so much for watching tonight, and I pray that someone will be encouraged. And when this comes out in the YouTube video, I'm praying that you will share it with someone that you know is going through, and so that they can see my sister here and know that she has a testimony. If she can do it, that they can do it too. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
Good night.